Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, if you saw my review for Call of Duty Black Ops 7 campaign, the story, well, was kind of non-existent. And I was confused by that because this was a sequel to one of the greatest Call of Duty stories of all time, being Black Ops 2, and a decent story being Black Ops 6. But this game, it just fell short, and it felt like it was missing something, and I found some of that story. Now, where does this come from? If we go in game, it comes directly from, if you go to career when you're in the campaign, and then campaign intel, there are 11 pieces of intel from the campaign and 20 from the end game. Now, I'm yet to do the end game ones. However, if you want to see a video on those as well and the story behind that, simply show me by hitting that like button. But if you look at these 11 pieces of intel from the campaign, each of them has to do with past Call of Duty stories, the present game of Black Ops 7, and dives into even details of Case from Black Ops 6. In this video, I'm going to show you where all of these pieces of intel are, and on top of that, what the story for each of them actually means and how it ties into the Black Ops story. Some of them even have Easter eggs in and of itself. Now, before you start getting these things, the one thing I will say is that every time you pick up a piece of intel, you get 5,000 XP, so it might be a good idea to pop some double XP. So the way that it's going to work in this game is each mission has one piece of intel or one artifact that can be found on it. So the first is in the first mission by the name of Exposure. Now, most of these you're going to find later on in the missions. A couple of them are early on, so if you don't do this during your first playthrough, just know you're gonna have to play through most of these missions again. However, when you do get the piece of intel, you can just leave the mission. It will save it in your inventory for you, so don't worry about that. Now, this first one is in the mission Exposure when you actually get into kind of like the dream sequence inside of Nicaragua. There's gonna be a time when a machete falls from the sky and kills a bunch of enemies. You're gonna run up to that machete and there'll be a well right in front of you. On that well will be sitting a smaller machete. That is where you're going to pick up the first piece of intel. So this piece of intel is named Becoming the Monster, and the description is, Menendez gave himself completely to Cortes Dia. He was a monster, convinced he was the hero, convinced he was doing the right thing, but he was insane. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. Am I still doing what's right, or am I becoming like him? David Mason. Now, each of these quotes is going to have someone who is saying it. We'll go through all of that. Now, if you don't know why the machete is a big deal, if we go back to Black Ops 2 and the Nicaragua mission, when Raul Menendez loses his mind, his weapon of choice is the machete. Now, on top of this, Menendez becoming a monster, David Mason is questioning once again his decision at the end of Black Ops 2, whether or not shooting Raul Menendez was the right move, or did doing something like that make him a monster. And even at the end of Black Ops 7, he chooses not to kill Emma Kagan because of the damage that it caused at the end of Black Ops 2. This next one I found during my live stream of the campaign, so you'll have to ignore my face for a second, but in the next mission called Inside, when you first run into Karma, aka Chloe Lynch, there will be a cutscene. You can do this before or after, but just beside her, there will be a body bag where you will be able to pick up the next piece of intel. This one is called The Truth. It says, the guilds used their influence to create a media blackout about their operations on Avalon. It will be impossible to win the hearts and minds of the people without hard facts. And even then, some won't believe us. We need enough evidence to rid the people of any doubt. Troy Marshall. This one means pretty much nothing. And generally speaking, when we get one of these pieces of intel about Black Ops 7, they're gonna mean pretty much nothing. This next one, it takes place in the mission called Distortion. Now, in this mission, you are chasing after Frank Woods. It's a flashback to his time in Angola and being a prisoner there. There's going to be a point where a boat raises up in this red, bloody water, and you get to the top. When you get to the top, you will see this version of the boat. And on it, if you interact with the shipping container, you'll get a cutscene to do with Frank Woods. Before you do that, go behind the shipping container, jump down underneath, and you are going to find a set of dog tags. This is going to be your third piece of intel. Now, this is Frank Woods' dog tags. It says here, Frank really stepped up after my dad died. I don't know what I would have done, or who'd I'd become without him. Now he needs my help, but he's pulling away. I can't let him go through this alone. David Mason. Now, this is an interesting one because we knew that after the events of Black Ops 6, Frank Woods said he was going to go and take care of David.
I haven't told anyone this yet. With Mason gone, I want to look after his boy. Bring him up. I owe Mason that. And that kid, he's a good one. David. He's gonna amount to something someday.
So this pretty much confirms, and the campaign of Black Ops 7 confirms, that Frank Woods essentially became like an adoptive father to David Mason. The next mission, called Escalation, this one is pretty much right at the end. You're eventually going to work your way to kind of like a data center. Now, when you get there, you're going to go through the door that you are seeing here, and immediately on your right, there's going to be a small office. On the desk, there's going to be a USB stick that you're going to pick up. That's your next piece of intel. Ria Zaviri, I'm definitely saying that wrong, the guild's highest ranking marksman and the highest paid. She does it for the money and for Emma Kagan. I'd say we should have hired her, but you can't trust people like that. From Chloe Karma Lynch. Now, this is interesting because this sniper character that's introduced to us through the campaign, we really had no idea who this character was, where they came from. Now we know that they were simply an assassin hired by Emma Kagan, and she gets paid a lot of money to do so. That's essentially all we know about that character. The next mission is called Disruption, and this one you're going to find right after you crash hijacked into the guild facility. You're going to be coming in on top of these skylights, and there'll be a bunch of enemies that you have to kill inside. You can actually do it before fighting any of the enemies if you're quick. If you jump down and kind of go backwards up the stairs, this is actually one of the multiplayer maps. I believe it's called Forge. But in this, you'll go into a back office, and you'll be able to pick up that next piece of intel here in the corner. Best laid plans, even the best laid plans can hit a snag. That's why I recruit the best of the best, a team that can improvise, making the impossible possible. Spectre teams know exactly when to trigger plan B, like an EMP blast to save their lives. This one's a big nothing burger, but it's referring to Spectre 2, the group that goes into Japan and ends up having to use an EMP to take out a VTOL. Really nothing else to that one. In the next mission, called Collapse, there's two ways to do this. First off, you can either go around the outside of the Coliseum once you get to it to the backside, or wait till you go down into the Coliseum, and when you come up and go towards the SAM site close towards the end of the mission, there's a little plateau that you can go up to, as you are seeing here, and there you will find this kind of skull or mask that you can pick up for the next piece of intel. This next one says, heavy is the head. When an empire falls, a better one rises from the ashes. This is how society has been evolved. But now it's time for a leap in evolution. The guild offers a better way, a better life for those who don't stand in the way of progress. Emma Kagan. Honestly, this should have probably have been something that Emma said during the campaign at some point, because throughout the campaign, we don't really know any of her motivations. Seemingly, she wants to build a better society and do so using this new form of technology, but that's, aside from the intro, never really stated too much. In the next mission, called Fracture, you're going to go in when the road starts bending and you kind of see some trucks flipped over on their side. One of them will have an open top, and when you turn around, you are going to find this kind of flag pin in the corner. Now, the weird thing is this mission is about Samuels, yet that is not what the intel is about. This next one is called Team Bond, and it's specifically about 50-50, and this is more story than we get on her throughout the rest of the essentially campaign. Leilani makes every second count. I chose her for the team for her resiliency and precision. The bionic limbs give her an edge in combat, sure, but she didn't have them when I chose her. Her heart keeps her grounded, and the team's better for it. Troy Marshall. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Leilani as a character, but again, this is probably some information that should have been given to us during the campaign. Now, this next one is by far the most interesting story-wise out of any of the intel. It's found on the mission called Quarantine, and you're going to go up to a penthouse that is owned by a Dr. Faulkner, one of the characters within the campaign and the doctor working for the guild. You're going to go up to the penthouse, and when you get there, you're going to recognize it because it was a map from Black Ops 6. You're going to go to the boardroom, and sitting on the table, you are going to see a vial of Cradle. This is your next piece of intel. It is called Case. We're going to go over this one in some depth. Of all the CIA's dirty secrets, and there are many, the Cradle is my favorite. First tested on William Cauldron, I believe the CIA failed to grasp the toxin's potential. See, Emma's vision needed a catalyst, and the moment I found that sample, I knew I had it. Now, this one doesn't say who is saying this, but I believe that it is Dr. Faulkner, as you find this in his residence, as well as it just makes the most sense with what's going on here. But if you don't know what this means, if you didn't play Black Ops 6, Case was the main character that you played in that game, William Case Cauldron. He was Case 1, the very first test subject of Cradle, a project used by the CIA to try to create super soldiers, but they found out that it induced rage. Now, they stopped using it, and it appears as though Emma Kagan somehow got her hands on it. How? Well, now we know it is through Dr. Faulkner, but we don't really know his background whatsoever. The next piece of intel is on the mission Suppression. Now, you're going to have to go through about half of this mission, and halfway through, you're going to make your way to the Mason residence, which is found in Alaska. Upon getting there, you're going to go to the second floor of the house. Do this just before you do the rest of the mission, basically right when you get there, right when you turn your weapon purple. You're going to find a fishing rod sitting in the corner. This one is called Lake Time. Fishing, one of the few happy memories with Dad when he was alive. I wondered what he'd say if he could see me now. I thought I knew once that he'd say he was proud. Now, I'm not so sure. David Mason. So this, I actually really like this quote. It's something I wish he would have said during the scenes when they're kind of getting the flashbacks at the Mason residence. It's a shame that they had to have zombies running at us, because this scene, if they would have said something like this, it would have said a lot more about David Mason's character, how after the events of Black Ops 2, now he's questioning whether or not he's even a good guy, and he doesn't have that father figure anymore because Frank Woods is now dead to tell him that what he has done is right. And it seems as though Troy Marshall's kind of taken on that role, but at the same time, yeah, it would have been a lot more heartfelt actually coming from the voice actors as opposed to in the intel. The second last piece of intel, this one can be found pretty quickly. This is on the mission Breakpoint. You're going to hit a point where the objective splits into 6. Don't do any of the objectives. Follow the path that I'm going here. You're going to go underneath a bridge and into kind of like a shipping container, and on the ground in that shipping container is where you will find the next piece of intel. This one actually has a really cool Easter egg, and I wish they would have used this a little bit better. Trigger finger. To Emma, the cradle is a bioweapon. It's hope. Collateral damage in exchange for a better world. Yeah, there's money in it, but Emma can pull the trigger in a way nobody else can. Slade, Razor, Barrack. So this kind of explains how Razor, the character that turns on Spectre 2, why he decides with Emma. He kind of believes in her vision. Now, I wish what this would have been when it says trigger finger, I wish they would have related it a little bit more to Victor Reznov. Because if you didn't know, Victor Reznov was missing his trigger finger. And they could have used that in a cooler way to kind of throw back to that, because really, aside from him being a pre-order bonus, there really hasn't been anything looking back at him. Now, the final piece of intel is pretty much found at the end of the last mission called Containment. You're going to get into kind of like a boss fight against these 3 big robots. You're going to have to find the control room in the background, work your way towards there, hop your way across some shipping containers, and then you're going to have to go into the back of one where you will find the final piece of intel. The final piece is called Face the Nightmare. Fear is an opportunity. You either accept it or you're swallowed by it. The only way past it is through it. And it's hard, really fucking hard to conquer it. But what waits on the other side is worth everything. Freedom. David Mason. So essentially, this is saying what should have been said at the end of the campaign, where now David Mason, after working his way through his fears, working his way through the death of Frank Woods, through the memories of his father, he has now reached the other side of fear. He feels free of it, and if anything, this has given him some absolution at the end of a very long story for him. Now, as I mentioned, I have not gone in and got the endgame intel as of yet. I don't know what story hides behind that or what can be found there, but if you want a video similar to this one where we go in, find all of them, and then of course go through the story behind it, show me by hitting that like button, maybe subscribe and turning the notifications on. As always, thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this to us.